Prince Harry completed his first day of testimony today, and it's exploding in his face. His own book, Spare, is being used against him, and he's being exposed as the source of articles that he's complaining about. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We have part 2 of our transcript coverage of Prince Harry taking the stand in the UK against the Mirror Group tabloids. And man, I don't know if you missed part 1, check it out. We are now going to get into part 2. This is the second half of his day. We have the quotes. Thank you, Steph, for pulling this all together. All right, here he is. They don't allow cameras in. They allow sketch artists. And we did see some images of Harry on the stand. This is the best we're going to get of seeing him in court, sadly. I wish they would just tape it, but they don't. But let's get through and go through the rest of these quotes, shall we? All right, let's get to it. Now, where we left off, they were talking about these substances, and the court now turned to Duke's allegations that Prince Harry is the Duke. The palace sometimes cooperated with the press on stories about him, as written in his book Spare. Mr. Green brought up that the editor of Britain's biggest tabloid, the now defunct News of the World, and its former editor, Rebecca Brooks, calling the then Prince of Wales about his son's substance taking and negotiating with him. Mr. Green is reading from the Duke of Sussex memoir, Spare, about the incident, which states that the palace cooperated with the story, and Mark Boland, the spin doctor, decided to spin the Duke right under the bus. I'm not entirely sure it was agreed by the palace, but I know that it was his approach. I have no idea who was involved in that other than himself, Prince Harry tells the court. Mr. Green, the lawyer for the Mirror, asks if the palace sometimes cooperated with the press without your consent or knowledge on stories, to which Prince Harry agrees, but adds, I refer to just 2 occasions in my book. Story would have been a red flag to a bull, he said, saying the Sunday Mirror would have done everything they could to further this story. But this is an important one before we even continue. Prince Harry's book is now being used against him in the case because his own recollections in the book contradict the entire case he's going. So whatever your thoughts of Prince Harry and Meghan, this book was a terrible idea while he's in the midst of this lawsuit because it's being used against him, admitting that the royal palace was the one leaking and spinning some of these own stories, giving the Mirror Group all the defense they need to say, well, you can't even prove that it was us when your own family was leaking stuff to the press. I mean, I know people say dumb prince as a joke because of the South Park thing, but my God, this is a dumb prince. Sorry. What are you doing, dude? It's not my role to deconstruct the articles. The court's moved now into the 7th article, in which they talk about his ecstasy parties. Prince Harry in his claim has said he doesn't know where the words worried sick could have come from in relation to his father's response to his substance taking. I don't think it's my role to deconstruct the articles, Prince Harry tells the lawyer, after the lawyer attempts to establish whether the quote marks around worried sick in the article were intended to show direct quotations from King Charles now. Pressed again by Mr. Green about the fact the information was reported elsewhere first, Harry says, when an article comes out, in my experience, journalists are under a huge amount of pressure to deliver the goods. Asked whether the article itself or the breaking of the story impacted him, he tells the court, the headline itself is enough to create judgment. Headline itself, let alone the article, had a profound impact on me because even though I didn't read it, there are people around me who would have read it. So again, he's just mad at the press. And I feel for him a bit. I do. It's rough out there. I'm not trying to say that's not, but this whole case is about, did they do illegal practices? And what's scary now is there's no proof of it. Just a lot of speculation and conjecture. And that sucks because I'm sure they have done a lot of shady stuff, but Prince Harry's now putting it out there with his privacy tour continuation, just over exaggerating stuff that he brought no evidence for seemingly. And that's irritating me. That's irritating because I believed in him. I had his back on this. I was like, oh yeah, let's get these tabloids. But it's only going to get worse, guys. Court has now turned to the Duke's allegations the palace sometimes cooperate with the press and stories about him as written in his memoir. He brought up the editors of Britain's biggest tabloid, the now defunct News of the World, going in about, we did this one. Did this get repeated? Sorry, my bad. Continuing. My bad. Repeating the same page. Now we're going into the kissing disease. As he talks about here. Andrew Green, KC representing the Mirror publisher, has jumped straight back into cross-examining Harry about the 8th article question, titled Harry's Sick with Kissing Disease, about Prince Harry's diagnosis of glandular fever. Mr. Green points out that a St. James Palace spokesman is quoted in the article talking about Harry's condition. This again was in reaction to a phone call from a journalist based on the wording that's used here, Prince Harry says. The palace does not have a systematic habit of talking about private matters. In fact, their job is quite the opposite, which is true. But currently, they're still talking about this article. Mirror claims that the story was obtained by Jane Carr, a royal reporter who was well connected. They add that it was also during the period where the relationship between Mark Boland and then Prince of Wales, Deputy of Private Security, that's Mark Boland Security, and Piers Morgan. He had a relationship with them. Daily Mirror editor was at its height, so it was likely disclosed by him. They said it was confirmed by a statement from a St. James Palace spokesman, as quoted in the article. So they're admitting, yeah, we had some contacts within the royals, your head of security, etc., that were leaking these things for us. Pressing the Duke on whether he checked with the palace before stating whether they put the information about his glandular fever out freely or responded to a journalist's question appears to have caused confusion in the court. Harry asserts that this was a request made by the Mirror Group to him and his lawyers. Yes, I believe you know that, to check with the palace. The lawyer moves on, but before he does, Prince Harry adds, different spokespeople for the palace work in different ways. He says the public statements are only reserved for major events, and insists that the Mirror article about glandular fever was highly personal and distressing. But was it illegal, Prince Harry? That's what we're asking here. Mr. Green asks whether he found the same article in the Edinburgh Evening News and the Sun similarly distressing, to which the Duke responds, I didn't even know there was an Edinburgh Evening News today, and I didn't see the article in the Sun. So yet again, he's suing the Mirror Group, saying, you hacked me. Oh, but there were now 2 sources that they're pulling out saying that also reported it. This isn't looking good, man. It's just exploding worse and worse. Miss Green's now moved on to the 9th article, No Eton Trifles for Harry 18, published in September 2002. It was based on an interview that Prince Harry gave to the Press Association 2 days before publication. Interview, which was embargoed, was then published in various Sunday newspapers. Mr. Green tells the court, it is a story about how the details of how and when Prince Harry celebrated his 18th birthday with his family. I see similarities between the Sunday Times and the Miracle, Duke tells the court. But Mr. Green points out the use of the same quotes from the interviews in his PA. So this is where it gets, yes, if you didn't pick it up yet, Prince Harry is now informed in the court, you were the source of your own complaint here. Harry's complaining about articles that he was the one who gave the quotes. Mr. Green hammers home the point that Harry had revealed his birthday plans and other private information in his embargoed Press Association interview. The position then is this: the private information of which you complain in the Daily Miracle article had been revealed by you and then published in other newspapers. He tells the court, Harry says, I see the similarities, of course, before adding he believes the article was connected to an invoice and that the timing was suspicious. Dude, you gave the quote. If this is true, you gave your own quotes. This looks so dumb. Godfather article, all in public domain before publication. Discussing the 10th article in the claim, Mr. Green says again that the information was all in the public domain before the Mirror even published it. People article titled Matured Harry is a Godfather is about his invitation to be a godfather of his former nanny's child and his attendance at the child's christening. The lawyers for the Mirror say the information about Prince Harry's appointment as a godfather had been published a week prior in the Sunday Telegraph, and it had expected attendance at a christening. Again, I see the similarities, but I don't know how it was all obtained. Well, then why aren't you suing them too? That's the problem here. You're going after all the press. And I want to be clear, some of these tabloids may have been doing really disgusting methods, but he's got to prove it. He can't just go and say, it made me sad. This thing made me sad. If they're getting it from real ways and it's not lies, then he's just trying to stop the free press from reporting on him. And that's not allowed. Is this defamation? Is this insanely private? He's going to an event that was already reported before. Why is this off the record? Why should this not be something that's allowed to be reported? I'm confused. I thought this evidence that he was bringing, these articles that he was bringing, was going to be so much more damning. But no. Bringing up an invoice, the lawyers for the Mirror say it appears that a freelancer had written up the story from the Sunday Telegraph and sold it to the people for £200. I've never heard of anyone writing up a story already in the public domain and selling it for £200, Harry says. It's not particularly enjoyable to go through this process again, he says, when asked if he found the article distressing. This is getting confusing and frustrating. He then is challenged over the phone hacking claims. Courts turn to the next article, Harry to lead cadets march. He says the 3-sentence article, which reveals some details of Harry being selected to lead a military cadet in the Eton Parade, was very suspicious that there's no byline on the Mirror article and refuses to rule out that it was obtained by phone hacking. So he's just saying, well, it must be phone hacking. Mr. Green asked whether the Press Association's story revealing the same information was an issue for him, to which he responded that there's no history of phone hacking to obtain stories at the Press Association. And so this is when the lawyers really grill him. Are you suggesting that just because the Mirror has admitted one incident of phone hacking, that every other article was obtained by phone hacking? Prince Harry then admits no, before going on to say that this particular article caused him distress, or caused him no distress. So why is it there? What are we doing here? This is only hurting your case, Harry. Harry, you are a Prince Harry. What are you doing to yourself? To quote Hagrid. Private gap year information published in multiple newspapers. Turning to the next article, Harry is ready to quit Oz. Mr. Green points out that it quotes a St. James Palace spokesman. In the article alleging that Prince Harry was considering abandoning his gap year due to unwanted media attention, Prince Harry claims it was a reactionary statement from the palace and says he was not aware that a similar article appeared in multiple other newspapers on the same day. Mr. Green argues that other publications had the same private information that the Daily Mirror had, and which the Duke admits, yes. Comes back to the level of competition between each of the publications, Harry tells the court. But you're here accusing the Mirror Group of illegal methods. Not being, oh, well, they're always on top of me. I want my privacy. This is too much to talk about my broken thumb and the christenings I'm going to be at that people have admitted. If you have a problem, it sounds like the own royals maybe is where this is. Potentially, who knows where this is all coming from. But I hate to be defending the Mirror because I'm not a huge fan of them, but I will defend the press if I need to. Harry doesn't seem to want the press to be able to report certain things he doesn't want them to report. Media fascination followed me to the Outback. Asking him whether Mark Dyer, had previously described as a second dad to Harry, had revealed the TV line to the press, Harry responds, I don't accept that Mr. Dyer would be freely speaking to the press. Well, he is plainly speaking to the press because he is appealing to Australian broadcasters to leave you alone. He'd focused reports and been inside watching videos to avoid the media. Was told to the press about Harry. The former senior aide who arranged Harry's visit was quoted as telling reporters Harry had been stuck inside to avoid all press. I see the similarities in all the stories you've shown me, again, proving the media fascination in my life, even when I'm in the middle of the Australian outback. Just because they're fascinated with your life doesn't prove they broke the law. This just does, I'm sorry, screams, wah! And it's everything people warned me about the prince. Everything we've seen is coming to fruition through this trial. What were you doing, Harry? What were you doing? I believed in you. You were the chosen one. Can you see me? I'm just getting more and more frustrated. And I went into this open-minded, guys. I went in rooting for him. I went in saying, all right, look, we may disagree on things, but the press, if they're really doing these things, they need to be taken to task. You've proven nothing. Late Queen intervened into a gap trip intrusion. The Duke, Prince Harry, told the High Court, Queen Elizabeth, that a senior aide to Australia, he was on a gap year. He was challenged on another article, Beach Bum Harry. Prince Harry says finding him in the Australian resort on the Queensland coast would be like trying to find a needle in the haystack. I have no doubt that many photographers were prepared to look for that needle in the haystack, the lawyer responds. He also says everybody has enormous sympathy with the amount of press intrusion you have suffered in your life, but it does not follow that that was obtained unlawfully. And that's really the brunt of it all, sadly. My grandma had sent a senior staff down because of the intrusion in my life, the Duke adds, in his time in Noosa. I only learned recently that the Queen had asked one of her assistant private secretaries to fly out and take a house down the road from where I was staying without me knowing. So you didn't know everything and you keep assuming things is what this sure seems like. The Mirror's really prepared. The Mirror's really prepared in this. I used distrust in voicemails to his brother over Paul Burrell. Now, Paul Burrell is the former butler of Diana. We've talked about him previously, and the question of whether they wanted to meet with him, which they did. In the article, the Duke's lawyers yesterday claimed that it was a starting point in a rift between Harry and his brother that ripped the royal family apart. That this kind of article seeds distrust between brothers. But is it true? These were the words that I used, and I certainly left voicemails on my brother's phone using that phrase, the Duke says, of the story's headline he called Burrell a two-faced S. Article being discussed is Will's seeing Burrell's the only way to stop him selling more Diana secrets. Harry, no. Burrell's that was the article in question. Now look, this one's probably sucks, and there is some seeming proof here, I will admit. This word choice and things, where else did they get it? But let's continue. I can't remember if I wanted Burrell to do the Burrell meeting. Prince Harry admitted he cannot remember if he wanted to meet with Mr. Burrell. When pressed, he repeatedly asked Harry about his feelings towards Mr. Burrell after a contradiction was pointed out to him over whether he wanted to meet him or not. There is no suggestion in Spare that you were firmly against a meeting, said Mr. Green. Again, Spare coming into play to affect Harry's case here. Harry responded, no, because I wrote it when I was 38. And in this story, I was 18. I assume I would have wanted a meeting. I'd love to give him a piece of my mind. After he gets pressed once again, he seems to contradict himself, saying, at the time, I was firmly against the meeting. I was in the middle of the Australian outback. Hindsight is a very different thing. So you can't have it both ways, Harry. Did you want the meeting, or do you know you wanted the meeting, or did you not know you wanted the meeting? Because you're just saying now you remember you didn't want the meeting. But then earlier you said you weren't sure and you didn't know. He says it firmly when he wants to believe. And that's why testimony matters, because it becomes about credibility. And his credibility is just going through the ground. I can't remember whether I wanted a meeting or not when pressed for a final time. Press. Tell it. Well, did you want the meeting? Well, I definitely didn't. I don't know if I did. I was firmly against. Which one is it, dude? Mirror advertised my travel plans during the Mozambique holiday. It's 2004 article. Prince Harry then met his girlfriend Chelsea Davies' parents. He told the journalist checked into his. Harry said journalists checked into his hotel before he arrived and blagged information about his flight back to from Africa. Mr. Green, the lawyer for the Mirror Group, says that Paul Davy, Chelsea's uncle, gave an interview to the Mail on Sunday informing them that the Duke was about to meet his parents for the first time. That doesn't mean it's true, Prince Harry responds, adding that journalists checked into the hotel before he even got there. Turning to Harry's witness statement, Mr. Green says that he mentions that the Mirror article states him and Chelsea had been dating for 8 months by that point, which was information that was in public domain. Asked whether he believes the information was gathered unlawfully, Prince Harry responds that he does, particularly about his flight back on December 19th, which was included in the article. I can't begin to imagine how they found that information out without flight blagging. Harry then accuses the Mirror journalist of advertising my travel plans, saying I'm at a complete loss as to how these details were obtained. It's distressing reading and looking at now as I first looked at it. Now, I'll give him this one. They shouldn't be publishing, he's flying on this place to that place. That does feel intrusive to a point where it's like, why? So tip one for the, and I'll give him 2 points. I think the Mirror's had a lot of points. I should have been keeping count. But here's 2 points. It's like, all right, fair. It'd be interesting to hear the response from this. But he wanted to spare his friends from giving evidence. Prince Harry has suggested he didn't ask friends to give evidence in the High Court over his claims of unlawful information gathering to spare them from the experience. Okay, interesting word choice. A lot of sparing, except for in his book Spare. Harry was asked why Guy Pelly was not asked to support his claims in court about the article about Chelsea wanting to break up with him. Duke said he revealed private information about his. The article revealed private information. The story reports that Miss Davy wanted to end the relationship over Harry's decision to wear that uniform at a party, and that he's spent in close proximity of an attractive brunette. Asked about the brunette claim, Prince Harry said it never happened, and therefore the quotes and everything written here has been specifically inserted to distract from the correct and true means of obtaining the information. Article starts with she gave him a tongue lashing over the phone. I don't know how anyone would have known that, the Duke says, adding he can't remember whether he actually did receive a tongue lashing from her. So then, did it happen? How do you know it was from the voicemails? He tells the court it appears that someone working for Mirror attempted to call Guy 2 days prior to the publication of these articles. I would want to spare most of my friends from this experience. When asked why he did not ask Guy to give evidence as a result. So did you ask him to? Is that really their choice? Or might that evidence not help your case? That's the problem here. I'd probably ask some of them to come in to verify. I didn't give it. I'm swearing under oath. That would help your case tremendously, but they're not there to do that. Revisiting the articles has been stressful. It's a stressful experience. He's described being in the cross-examined over the articles he claims show evidence of unlawful information gathering. It's a stressful experience. He made the remarks while being questioned over this article, You Did What? February 2005, which Mr. Green argued came from prior reports. The story is about the farm work the Duke had to do as punishment imposed by his father for dressing up as at a party. Harry's legal teams say the story involves a large number of invoices surrounding people close to the family whose voicemails were targeted. Now, I'd love to see that proof. This is what we're needing. A little bit of seeds of proof here. Great. Bring them if it's true. A lot of this has not helped his case. Would you agree the private information about your punishment was not obtained by the Sunday Mirror Group by phone hacking or unlawful means? Harry responded after they listed all the other articles that did it. But Harry responded, the Mirror's article was a classic example of journalists attempting to further the story. I can't recall whether I read the article at the time, but going back over it today has been a stressful experience. So again, other people wrote about it. Did Mirror get it up legally? Why would they go get it illegally if other people are reporting on it first? That makes no sense. Prince Harry insists no one was privy to his relationship with ex-girlfriend Chelsea Davy after details emerged in a People article titled People, one of the Mirror's pages, not People magazine, titled Chelsea's Gap Year in April 2005 about her plans to spend more time with him. Discussing the level of detail in the article, such as Harry's struggle being away from Chelsea, his trip to see her in South Africa. In regards to spending hours on the phone to Chelsea, there's no way anyone else would have known that our relationship was private. But Mr. Green tells the court an article in the Daily Star published many months before revealed Harry was spending hours on the phone to Chelsea. The lawyer said this reveals extensive information about the phone calls between the couple. Yes, it does say that, Prince Harry admits. He continues, the quotes that are attributed to an insider are what remained suspicious to me, but later admitted he could see similarities between a Daily Mail article and the People story, which was published afterwards. The level of intrusion and interest around our relationship, one quotes a passenger on a plane saying that Chelsea said she can't wait to see more. I don't think my girlfriend would have spoken to a passenger on a plane about our relationship, Harry told the courts. So again, wouldn't it have been nice if she or other witnesses were there to help? Well, they're not going to be there. That's the problem. And I'm hearing, we might not hear from Pierce or any of the Mirror Group. I was talking to Black Belt Barrister and Steph, who both sort of attested. They don't have to come on stand because apparently they're just going to say, well, we have to protect our sources, so we can't answer the questions anyway. And the judge is like, yeah, it's just a waste of time to bring them on anyway, which makes no sense to me. There's a lot more to unpack of this. We're going to be live later in a little bit. I hope you will join us. I'll put the live link at the end here. If you haven't already, I don't know why it's not showing, but here it is. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell. I'm going to try it again here. Hit that subscribe button, which should come up. There it is. Hit that bell for all alerts and smash that like button if you like what you see here, and leave a comment down below. What do you think? Did you give Harry any points? Did any of this seem suspicious? Or are you just seeing this explode like a lot of it looks? The fact that his own book and his own words are being used against him is not helping the case in my mind. What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts, and don't miss our live. We'll be live in a bit. I'll put the link there on the left. Join us around 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here talking more. Thanks, guys, so much for watching.